the Nook.
No, it's
Or-
1600 Cloister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can't think of his name.
okay, that's fine.
Kent Eckerd.
I didn't think that was Kent. What's the other guy's name?
The guy that was head of security.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
okay.
I have it here somewhere.
Alan Brightbill, remember him?
I do, but that was,
He retired.
oh,
Good evening, Kent. Thanks for joining us. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you fine.
Excellent.
Mr. Snyder, I presume.
Mr. Eckert.
Mr. Eckerd.
Eckert.
Eckert, yeah.
I guess he can't hear.
Should be able to.
Ed, you were very, very muffled when you spoke.
You said you were very muffled when you spoke.
Oh, maybe because of this. Not that this is any better. I know Scott was having a lot of trouble with his shield.
Yeah, 2 meetings ago. I think we solved that problem. We have to keep those microphones on the tables off. And then it picks everything up from the microphones in front of you. I think that was our problem. No, I didn't. You may want to do that. I don't think I opened the front doors either. Or unless Diane did.
I didn't. I just assumed you had done that already.
Official maps, just to keep it fresh.
Yeah, Alan's supposed to be putting it out front. And
It already,
just to put it in the chairs up there.
I put it up front.
Huh?
I put it up front.
I know.
It's been out there for about a week or so.
John, can you fix me? It says my account needs fixed. I'm out of date. You know, Nate had it for a while. I'm into it, but I can't get any emails.
Still.
Now, yeah. Yeah, that was my problem before, right?
Do you remember what your password is?
I had to do it to get this far.
Did you text us, Andy?
I did.
Four six seven 2469 has been disconnected.
Hi, Andy.
There you go. If you get a text message from me, you can just delete it. The
Day.
gang's all here.
Yeah. Road solid already.
Yeah.
Seems to
Juice
work
out there
pretty
on some of
well.
the roads.
So that's very effective. So we might have a short meeting tonight, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Do you think Mr.
Never
Eckert
know.
has something about traffic or the other meeting?
It's for 1600 Cloister.
So he's interested in how the traffic can be managed or?
What we told him that we thought he might need
Oh, yeah,
left-hand turn.
yes, I
No,
did
prohibit
read that.
left-hand.
I did read that. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And so we want to take care of that now, just in case,
Yeah,
because it'll be a month until we need it.
yeah, that area can get pretty interesting.
Yeah, those right-hand turns out of there are going to be difficult. Did we want to start?
John was working on this, which could wait.
Okay.
Yeah, we can start. You ready, Diane? She's ready. All right. I'd like to call the February 17th meeting of the Traffic Commission for East Hempfield Township to order. Would you kindly join with me in a moment of silence? And we will then do the pledge. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item we have to consider is the minutes from the January 20th, 2021 meeting. Are there any comments or revisions?
I have none.
I'm good.
Hearing none, I will call for a motion for approval.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Weaver. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All in favor? Motion by aye.
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 Minutes are approved as prepared. Thank you. Under old business, we have the Spring Valley Road matter where we were requesting a petition effort by the residents, and at our last meeting, they had requested that they might be able to do it virtually, or that is to say by email to the township, and that was granted. Have we had any input from any residents on that area?
We have not,
Okay,
but I added it to your agenda just to make you aware that of the July 2020 minutes and the speed summary report that was already provided. I wanted to get clarification from the board. You desire to wait for that petition to come or possibly have our traffic engineer look at alternative methods of providing control?
I'm reminded that we also authorized Public Works, Mr. Madonna, to get sign paintage for the road
Yeah.
with the 25 mile per hour limit.
And I think it's probably on his spring schedule.
And right, we need to wait for the warm weather. What's the commission's feeling on this matter?
As far as the petition that
Did-
was discussed last meeting,
Did you want us to wait for the petition to come? I was a little confused because she came back, we had asked her in July to come back with a petition, and then she waited several months and then came back and said they can't get it done, and then you send her away again. I didn't know if we should be doing something as staff in between by talking to the traffic engineer regarding what could possibly be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the petitions are good to avoid people just coming in that don't really have a problem, but I don't know if they really know that they have if they think they have a problem, and it doesn't really cost us anything to set up a speed test. I
It's
say we
already been
just-
done. That's,
Okay.
the speed test is done. What the question is now is what type of device do you want to put on the roadway to help control? Would it be the speed sign that we purchased or are in the process of purchasing and do the same thing that we did on Nisley and see how that works? Do we want to have the traffic engineer look at speed tables, speed humps, speed whatever? Something else that can control traffic in that area?
Well, why don't we try the painting? That seems to be the first step on the other streets, so.
Okay. I just wanted to make
My
sure we
thought.
weren't supposed to be doing something.
I think I'm in agreement with that. I think absent of additional information from the residents, I think at a minimum, we should do the 25 mile per hour
Okay.
street painting. Anything else I think can wait. I did have a question about Spring Valley Road. I'm looking at the July, or the speed study, I guess, that was done in 2013 and 2020. Have we, in 2020, we have reduced the speed on that road from 35 to 25?
I don't believe so. Steve or Perry? Did we change the speed limit on Spring Valley from 13 to 20? Yeah, it actually does say that on the, and that could be a typo. You're on mute, Perry.
It appears that the speed study was done for 35 miles per hour, as I recall reading it. So that may be the posted speed. Whatever, I think my opinion is if it is 35 and if cars are going to obey 35, and I say that considering the fact that they know they're allowed 10 over pretty much, but even 45 is really too fast. So I guess we could get McMahon's input on that, but if our goal is 35, then it should be changed to 25, and before we paint it, we ought to make this decision.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute there for a while. I wasn't allowed to. We did not change any speed signs out there at all. And I too just wanted to remind you that that road is on the schedule to pave this paving season.
So
That-
what is the speed limit on the road today?
I think it is 35.
That was just a typo on my part,
Again,
or Steve's part.
the speed study says that it's 25.
Steve?
I double checked. I just don't remember.
I think what happened, and maybe Tom has it in front of him, the only document I have is the June 2020. I remember that when the speed study was done, I think that Mark programmed it in at the wrong speed initially, and then we did a second one. But as I'm sitting here right now, I don't remember if it's 25 or 35 because I only have the one document. The second one would have been correct.
Again, I can't believe you make a mistake. But it says westbound
Ready
lane
to go.
25, eastbound lane 25, and then it gives it average speeds of westbound 34 mile per hour and eastbound 32 mile per hour. So,
Great.
Let us get
Thank
some
you.
clarity on
yeah,
that.
let's clarify that
Yeah.
issue. And
It says-
before we do any,
25 on here.
that's what I'm looking at, yeah.
Yeah, we have,
I can see while we're discussing, I'll go in the computer and see if I can find the actual study from Public Works, and that would have the other speed on it. I could have put a typo on here.
it seems we have a complex matter here between repaving, getting the signage on the roadway, and what signage we are going to put on the roadway. So I believe it would be appropriate to table this and get a little more preparation on those things. And the only other thing we might consider doing at this time would be to authorize changing it to 25,
Oh, I see.
given that I believe we're going to have to make it 25 to have a managed reasonable speed on that road. So is there any interest in the commission to make that change at this time?
I would recommend you table and let us get some facts.
Very well. Motion to table from the, moved by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Weaver. Thank you. We will move on from that item. Under new business, we have the Penn State vaccination site at 1600 Cloister Avenue and a potential need for traffic control at Cloister and Route 741. Mr. Schweitzer, I believe you're most familiar with this question.
I'm actually going to pass this to Chief Skiles. He had the initial contact with Penn State. Mr. Eckert is also on the Zoom call from Penn State. So I think between the two of them, they can probably manage.
Yeah, I think I'll let Mr. Eckert go first. He can kind of summarize what the intent is, and then we can discuss some of the traffic issues. It might make more sense.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chief. A couple of weeks ago, my colleague and I, who's Chief of Our Security, Chris Snyder, reached out to Chief Skiles just to have an opening inquiry into concerns we had about the intersection of 1600 Cloister and Roarstown Road. And the question stemmed from Penn State Health's intent to open a regional COVID vaccination center at that site. We leased the office building, which is currently vacant due to COVID and folks working from home. And we thought it would be an ideal location to serve our patients in Lancaster County. And it's to be one of 5 regional vaccination centers we were opening up through the state. And while there are a lot of ideal aspects about this location, one of the less than ideal aspects of it is that Cloister Drive, Roarstown Road intersection, where either you're turning left onto Cloister from Roarstown or left off of Cloister onto Roarstown. And so we wanted to just reach out, get the advice of the chief and township officials and experts in that area and in traffic safety to see how we could best mitigate that situation. And so we took a look at a number of aspects, certainly starting with the number of patients we were seeking to see in the course of an hour and what that was going to do with the traffic at the intersection, really being the driving factor here. And a number of suggestions and recommendations were made that afternoon of February 5th. We followed through on those recommendations as I provided in an email to Cindy and the chief and others today. But I do appreciate the opportunity this evening to bring this in front of this commission. One update I did provide is that because of the large vaccination center that will be opening at the Park City Mall with Lancaster County, as well as changes in scheduling requirements that were issued by the Department of Health last Friday, we reassessed things over the weekend and have decided to postpone the opening of this site. If things go, certainly things are successful at the county site at Park City, we may not have a need for this site. And another factor here, of course, as you're all well aware in the news, is the supply of vaccine. So obviously that's another factor, and certainly we want that supply in Lancaster County primarily going to the county's efforts there at Park City. But nonetheless, we want to be prepared. My leadership could change direction on this. And so we wanted to follow through and everything and just make sure we have all the right things in place should we decide to move forward with this, that everyone is, well informed and understands what our intentions are.
And I'll jump in and add to that. Probably the biggest concern you can see there on the map that I assume it's up on your screen. But as you leave Cloister Drive and you want to make a left-hand turn onto Roarstown Road to go towards East Pete, there's a curve and a hill on that road that make it, especially depending on the traffic, pretty dangerous to make that left. And the same thing to a lesser degree, if you're traveling north on Roarstown Road and you want to turn left onto Cloister, again, depending on traffic, it could be dangerous. So to mitigate that, initially we had conversation that they would reduce the number of vehicles in and out per hour. I think the max was 90. Are you thinking 90 cars a minute at full capacity?
No, we were thinking 90 an hour, but then we actually, Chief, took it down to 55.
Okay.
And would be willing to go lower than that just as a ramp up exercise, because if we do this, we want to start conservative and see how things go.
Right. So with that in mind, staff kind of batted this around. What we were thinking might be most beneficial would be for the Traffic Commission to discuss the posting, albeit maybe temporary for 6 months while this is in operation, a restriction on the left-hand turns, as I described, not to post them now, but if needed, if traffic appears to be a problem as it's ramping up, that we could go ahead and post them and not have to delay for 2 weeks until we had another meeting. The other thing that we're doing is initially there's an agreement with Penn State at their expense to pay Flagger Force again to ramp into things to see how traffic flows, and as well as they're going to rent some warning sign trailers that we're going to post out as things progress. But at this point, we're going to hold off on that. But we'll come up with some language to post it out there before it opens to warn drivers that it's going to be congested there. So I guess really what we need from the Traffic Commission is I guess in our back pocket, an approval to post those signs if needed.
That would be a prohibition on a left-hand turn, right?
Correct. Be a posting for traffic leaving Cloister, and it would prohibit left-hand turns onto Roarstown Road. That would be the one sign. The other one would be for traffic from Roarstown Road 741 to turn left onto Cloister. Although personally, I don't think that that's going to be the problem, because you have a pretty good view up to that next intersection, unless traffic is very congested and your vision is blocked by a truck.
Yeah, I think in our discussions, I think we decided on just the Cloister one to prohibit left turns.
I frequent that area quite a bit. It's interesting without additional traffic. I believe if this is going to be effective, it would require some kind of a median barrier, a temporary one, of course, but causing cars to not be able to do it. Now, the challenge then is where they do the UEs to come back. There aren't a lot of opportunities for that.
That's why we weren't favoring the 741 prohibition.
I'm sorry, prohibit the,
That's why we decided not to suggest the 741 no left turn, because they essentially will be going up the street and trying to turn around.
yeah.
Yeah, for the traffic coming out of Cloister, if they want to go into East Pete, they can continue right and then turn down, drawing a blank, is it Flory Mill Road?
I think you're right.
Yeah, they could turn left and go out to Manheim Pike that way, or they could just stay on Roarstown Road, go underneath the bypass and circle back. But, the other concern that I have about that is vehicles that want to go left and know that they can't, can just cut through the parking lot at the Speedway and then turn, make a left out of their parking lot. So that's why we wanted to just play it by ear and not post it unless we needed to. So I think it would be appropriate if you agree to have somebody make a motion that if we need to, that we would be authorized to post that one sign.
As long as we could do it expeditiously with enough notice, yes, the chair will make a motion to table action on left turn restrictions until such time as a decision is made by Penn State Health to either, well, to implement a vaccine center at this location. Is there a second?
Can I interrupt a minute?
Yes,
I think what our intent is that you approve it and we just don't follow through with it unless needed, rather than having to come back to the board, because if we determine that we need the restriction, we could potentially have to wait 2 weeks until we get your approval to do it.
well, I'm more than happy to rephrase the motion that we are approving it pending the need for it.
Okay, I thought you said to table the discussion.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think I said the table, but if I did, it was my intent to be ready, but not to implement. Should I restate it?
I think you just did.
Just restate it to be clear, that's all.
Okay, so is there a second?
So moved.
Okay, it's a move by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Weaver. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is passed.
Could I ask a question of the gentleman from Penn State? You expect to be operating this from what time of day? What would the hours be? You have any idea?
Well, yeah, the original proposed hours were 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday,
Okay.
which was obviously pretty aggressive. And so what we're finding is I think that would be highly unlikely, primarily due to vaccine supply. I think it would be more of an 8 to 5 operation and probably not 6 days a week. But that was we wanted to account for the worst case scenario there. And that's why what we said, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week for a possible length of 4 to 6 months. But as we're finding out here pretty quickly, the supply is going to ebb and flow, from the state. And I think being able to sustain those sort of hours would be unlikely.
And there will be flagger force available during the 7 to 7, if that's what it turns out to be.
So, yeah, at the chief's recommendation, we did reach out to Flagger Force and have them on standby if we do this. The Flagger Force is a considerable expense. In other words, if we would follow through in those hours for that many months, we're looking at an expense of about $300,000 to Penn State Health. So that's why we said, well, let's do a couple things. We'll cut back on the volume, employ Flagger Force and see how it goes. Because I think we would want to try to make the most of the traffic mitigation we discussed this evening, and see what that could tolerate, and then make our operating decisions accordingly. It's just to reach that volume, but the offset being using Flagger Force for that period of time, would cause us to pause and probably reevaluate.
But when in operation, you do anticipate using flagger force?
Yes, at the outset, absolutely. I think we wanted to have them there and see how things go. If they're required as a permanent fixture there for the duration, yeah, we would probably ultimately find another location in our health system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the time this evening.
Well, after we lateraled the ball around so much, you ran well with it, sir. Thank you.
Well, thanks. And your whole team has been very gracious to consider our request and actually work with us on solutions. It was, very welcoming, and we appreciate it very much.
Okay. We will now move on to pending items, first being the Sharon Drive resident petition status. Can staff advise us on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been on your agenda for a couple of months now. We're just awaiting the petition from the resident, which last time we spoke to him, he was going to provide. We haven't had any contact, I don't believe, with him. I don't think you have either. So we just listed it as pending so we don't forget about it.
Okay, we'll carry that. Thank you. Main Street, Landisville. I believe it was reported a letter was sent to PennDOT.
Right, letter was sent right after the meeting. We're awaiting word from PennDOT as to what they're going to planning on doing. It will take some time.
Did that letter include the question posed by Chief Skiles about the parking on the crest at the dental office?
We consulted our traffic engineer, and our traffic engineer felt that that was a traffic commission issue.
That we could
We
just
could.
authorize it?
Yes.
Chief Skiles, you still in attendance, sir?
I am.
Your position on that has not changed, I would gather?
It has not.
Very well. Then, before this commission, we have a question whether we want to restrict some parking in the matter of visual safety for traffic at the dentist office on the crest of Harrisburg Pike, just east at the skirt of Landisville. Chief Skiles, do we have a number of spaces or a vertical, a linear distance or something that we could quantify this?
Can
Is that something, is that, I would think that that'd be something that Perry and I could go out and look at. My recommendation would be, no parking in front of the first, at least the first house, west of the dental office. And I don't have my notes from the last meeting, but I don't know the address, but the first house is where the cars keep getting struck. I noticed they haven't been parking there lately because I think all their cars were damaged. So,
We should also probably reach out and make sure they have off-street parking
they
available.
do. There's a driveway and it goes around to the back of the house.
Okay.
Yeah, the dentist definitely has parking back behind the building.
This would be past the dentist on the opposite, the downside of the crest.
I guess the measure that could be employed would be a clear sight triangle of the 100 feet distance or something like that. So the chair will make a motion for the commission to authorize Public Works, Mr. Madonna, and Chief Skiles, Hempfield Police Department, to determine the need for and post no parking signs for a safety improvement at the crest of the hill, north side, east side of Landisville. Is there a second?
Second,
Second from Mr. Weaver. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the continuing list is the Shank Road update, and it's in McMahon's court, and I guess it's still in McMahon's court.
Last I heard from him, which was this week, he intends to have that to me on Friday. So that'll
Okay,
be ready for your next commission.
okay. I guess in the interest of things, it might be helpful if that is disseminated to the commission at that time. We might be able to digest it. I think we pretty much can anticipate from discussion what it will include. But, and also there was from the Public Works Committee meeting, the additional request to McMahon to have maybe an alternate scope for heavy ballast stone instead of a curbing.
That'll be part of his proposal.
That's been
Yep.
communicated to him.
Yes.
Okay, great,
Yes.
thank you. And the last item on the pending list is Nisley Road. And Mr. Madonna, you are working on purchasing the approved items.
Yes, those items were ordered and I'm hoping to get them in very soon. And then with the painting of the stencils, that will happen as soon as we get some decent weather.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to public comments. I have a question to pose, and I guess I pose this to you, Mr. Madonna. I know you reported to us, I believe in the last Board of Supervisor meeting, that a portion of the speed bump, the temporary speed bump, had been dislocated on Orville. Someone thanked me for taking the speed bump away completely. Has it been removed?
Yes, we did remove it because the bolt holes actually got elongated from the plows trying to go over them. And again, we have to move it down a couple feet, like 2 or 3 feet, just so the new bolt holes, will actually hold the thing in place. I'm not sure. I know there was some discussion about actually putting in a paved permanent one. And I still am a little confused as to where we stand with that.
Well, I would suggest that since we aren't able to get bituminous materials anyway, at this moment, we're going to still be plowing a bit, so they tell us. And if we're going to have a relocation, I know there's been a suggestion that it might be at a specific place where the intended traffic controls are located, et cetera. So I think it would be appropriate, we could table this until our meeting in March and then determine if we think they could be installed. There's no more snow plowing and that kind of thing. Is there consensus on that, or?
So we're not going to put it back in right now.
Right now, no.
Okay.
Does that
Yes.
seem to be appropriate?
If it's okay with the commission, I was thinking about reaching out to the residents along Orville and asking them what they thought about it, if they wanted it permanent, and then report back.
I think that would be appropriate.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Can we do that via mail
yes,
requisition? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. You want a motion?
no,
No, not necessary. Okay, thank you. Anything else from the commission before we go to public comment?
If I could just jump back there to the Spring Valley Road, I did check Google Maps, and that is 25 miles per hour the entire length, with the exception of the S curve, which is 15 miles per hour.
Okay. Thank you for that research, timely research. In that case, though we tabled that item, to my recollection, we still would be anticipating there might be some petition requests come in, as well as we're going to try and weigh the placing of that paint versus the repaving, and maybe if that could be first on the list, so to speak, as we get paving, then we could get that behind us.
Well, I still could paint the 25 on there before it gets paved, like in March here. It's not that much of an expense of paint, and that way it would be there, because we probably won't get to that till, I'm going to say, late June, early July, until paving takes place there.
I understand that. I have a question, partly in not being completely knowledgeable about this, but is there a chance that if we paint it, that might create a bond problem when we repave, or would we mill it all away?
We would probably mill it off, and we're actually putting a pretty hefty scratch coat on that, so I don't think there would be a problem.
Okay, well, let's see what another 30 days of weather brings us before we paint that. And you won't be doing it anyway till then, I believe.
Correct.
It's understood we're going to be painting 25 miles per hour, so we've achieved that this evening. Okay.
Can I clarify something as well? And I'll acknowledge, I think that report that was confusing, I'm looking at it here. That was cut and pasted the bottom section. So my assumption is that I put in exceeding 35 mile an hour as a cut and paste from somewhere else. But if you disregard that, the average speed in the 85th percentile is right. So I apologize for my error, Mr. Bennett, but that was my fault.
make note of that.
Just don't tell my wife.
It's the least of my worries, Chief.
Okay, with those things behind us, I would open the floor for public comment. I don't see that we have any public. Therefore, I believe we will have no public comment. A comment from the commission.
Yes. Do we have any roads in the township that are posted at 20 miles per hour?
No,
Is there a reason why we don't?
the vehicle code has a specification that says that you can't reduce it beyond 25 mile an hour.
Unless it's school zone.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to post a neighborhood or a residential street at anything less than 25.
Even on a, and again, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but we do post part of Spring Valley at 15.
Yes, a particular study had to be performed. It's called a ball bank study, and it has to do with the sharpness of an S curve. And then, and only then you drop it down to a lower speed.
Thank you for the education. I appreciate that.
Very well. I believe I could call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weaver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I thank everyone for participation in the Traffic Commission meeting.
Okay, I got it.
You got it.
It's on the desk.
And I guess, is it best I go to you or should I try and send them?
Send it to me.
Okay,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
So is that done?
Yes.
Then we don't have to mention it. Fine.
It does change
What
the
someone might
minutes
have
that,
read.
that the board read,
I
yes.
got an agenda tonight.
So I do have it on the desk.
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
Okay.
That changed it to East Pete
Not
instead of
unwelcome, I must
Hempfield.
say.
They want us back again. Did you hear that?
I heard. I heard.
Had some pretty long ones.
We're gonna have
Very
to-
generous of you.
We're gonna have to get a badge or something.
Short one,
Sipping.
sort of a short one. It's running slow as can be. Gosh.